It's been a little while since I've gone back to an older game to try, but not too long ago I got more and more intrigued with Parasite Eve, a survival horror RPG hybrid game from the late 90s. Once I got the game to work for me, I decided to do it as a streaming series for spooky season, leaving aside that I started it just after Halloween. I was very impressed by how well the game holds up in its unique gameplay, fun setting and characters, masterful soundtrack from Yoko Shimomura, and blend of tense and creepy moments without going somewhere that squeamish players like me would be unwilling to follow. Parasite Eve is truly a gem of a game, and I'm here to let more people know about it, and join its many fans in singing the game's praises. Parasite Eve was developed and published by Squaresoft, although in North America their publishing arm was called Square Electronic Arts at this time. The game serves as a sequel to the 1995 novel of the same name by Hideaki Senna. What is it with games developed from books being so good? Maybe more developers should be following The Witcher, Metro, Mega 10, and Parasite Eve in doing that. The game came out for the PlayStation in March of 1998 in Japan and September of 1998 in North America. It took the book the game is inspired from 7 additional years before it was translated and brought to North America. Hence why many people don't even know Parasite Eve is a licensed game from the book. Likely due to that licensing, the game has not received any re-releases up to now, but it was available via the PlayStation Network up until the PS3. PS4 and PS5 players, though, are out of luck. Upon initial release, the game was generally well received with praise for the music, atmosphere, and graphics. What critique there was focused on the shorter length of the game and the lack of voice acting hampering certain dramatic scenes. Either way though, commercially the game did very well, selling just under 2 million copies worldwide and got 2 sequels. It's just a shame a remaster or remake has not come to fruition, likely due to the licensing issues. The events of Parasite Eve begin on Christmas Eve 1997 at the Opera. NYPD officer Aya Brea is on a date with a terrible guy to the opera when during the performance everyone in the audience apart from Aya and her date catch fire. On the stage, everyone apart from the main actress Melissa also catch fire, and Aya chases after Melissa to confront her. In that confrontation, Melissa mutates and claims the name Eve before fleeing. Thus begins a 6-day ordeal throughout New York City as Eve wreaks havoc on the city, and Aya, along with her partner and other allies, try to figure out who Eve is, what is the deal with the mitochondria she keeps going on about, and how to stop her rampage. As Aya is the only person who can get close enough to Eve to stop her, much of the legwork falls on her shoulders. However, this sparks another question. Why is Aya the only one able to resist Eve's powers? All of these questions will be answered over these tense 6 days. Parasite Eve's story is thrilling. Due to the short timeline and also the shorter playtime of the game, the action is pretty much non-stop. Yes, there are some moments to breathe, but then you are plunged right back into the plot, and I think this serves to the story's benefit. You will travel to plenty of iconic locations in the city, confronting a variety of foes mutated by Eve's powers, and it is both cool and tense. By focusing a lot on Aya and a couple other prominent characters, the story is also able to give the characters substance and make us care about them even in a short runtime. Does the science of the game make all that much sense? No, not at all, but the feeling behind it and creativity in the way the mutations play out sweeps you along for the ride. Parasite Eve's story is effective in its simplicity and that it cuts out the fluff. Even if you are able to predict what is going to happen, it's still fascinating to see it play out and well worth your time and attention. As for gameplay, Parasite Eve has an interesting system that blends action RPG, survival horror, and active turn-based elements into the combat. As you are going around, there are encounters. You could call them random because they come all of a sudden with no sign on the map, but they do only trigger in certain locations, so it's random-esque. Once you encounter enemies, you are given a limited space to run around, and I do mean run around. You control Aya moving around the space, actively dodging enemy attacks, and once your turn bar is full, then you can pause the game, get the gun out, and start blasting. Throughout the game, you'll collect several different types of guns, from your starting pistol to rifles, machine guns, and even a rocket launcher. So long as you have ammo, you can keep blasting away. If you run out though, the game has generously given you a baton to smack the enemies with until you get more ammo. In certain situations though, instead of shooting, you may need to heal or boost Aya. Certainly you can use items to do so, but Aya also has Parasite energy that she can use and gains more skills for as she levels up. I mainly use the energy for healing, but there are also some attacks and boosts that you can get and use as well. Be careful though, the more you use Parasite energy, the slower it recharges, unless you do something like switch the armor you are wearing, but you didn't hear that from me. Once all the enemies are defeated, you will get your items, experience, and bonus points. The items and experience are fairly self-explanatory, and I'll touch on the bonus points later on. All in all, the combat involves a fair amount of strategy, especially when it comes to the boss battles, which I think are well tuned to the game. Plenty of challenge where it really could go either way if I hadn't gotten in the right moves at the right time. The environments and locations you go to are a big part of the game because of how intricately they are laid out. Beyond the iconic status of many of them to anyone who has been to New York City, the levels feel carefully constructed. Make sure you're taking a look around for extra items and other goodies as well as the phones that you'll use to save. I do wish that part had been explained before I played the game the first time. I was initially worried about running out of ammo in the game, but Parasite Eve is very generous with its ammo. On rare occasions, you'll have to change guns, but ultimately you'll face more enemies who give ammo or find another generous heap lying around along with some other junk that you may want to hang on to give to a certain someone. I absolutely loved all of the levels, especially the museum one, where they would give me trivia questions that I could answer and then be rewarded with ammo or medicine for getting correct. Giving me bonus trivia and rewarding me for getting it right is one way to make me like your game even more. You will also find tools around, which brings me to the progression part of the game, a critical aspect to understand in order to defeat the toughest enemies. I talked earlier about the bonus points that you get. Leveling up will give you a faster active time bar, more inventory space, and greater overall stats, but if you want more, you can use your bonus points to upgrade all of those, as well as increasing your armor and gun specific stats. As you are exploring around, you may also find stat boosters for the guns and armor, but what happens if you use a lot of stat boosters on a specific armor, but then find a better one? That's where the tools come in. You can use tools to transfer those bonuses to the attributes of the new gun or armor. You can even go further than that by transferring certain special abilities like automatic healing or acid effect onto your bullets. So yes, theoretically, you can increase your sniper rifle's firing rate by sacrificing a machine gun. Super tools, which are very rare, do all the same, except you get to keep the gun or armor you are getting the attributes or abilities from instead of sacrificing it. Save them up and use them at an appropriate time and you can make some very powerful combinations, and that's even before you compound them with bonus point upgrades as well. I will say though, I use most of my bonus points on increasing my active time bar speed. The more chances you get to act, the better you'll do, and it served me well. Parasite Eve as an original PlayStation game has the blocky pixelated polygons, but it makes them work really well. I think the game captures the feeling of a cold December in New York City very well with its environment and colors. I've been in New York City around that time, and Parasite Eve brought me back to that, minus the wind chill thankfully. The character designs are good, especially when it comes to our most important characters, and the creature designs are properly weird and grotesque while still retaining a semblance of the animals or people they used to be. The standout for the visuals then and now, though, are the FMV cutscenes, which hold up so well several decades on. Sure, you may want to look away from some of them if you're squeamish, but the action is dynamic, the visual effects enrapturing, and they hit just as hard now as they did before. Part of that, though, has to also come down to the soundtrack for the game. Yoko Shimomura is a master of video game music, and Parasite Eve is one of her earliest works, and still shows how skilled she was even then. In interviews, she has said she tried to make inorganic music for the game. I think her instincts were right, as the music really captures how wrong the enemy and events of the game feel. It's a crime against nature, and the eeriness is constant and oppressing. There are other tracks that feel calmer and more typical, but those gradually reduce over the game as the few areas of comfort start to feel the taint of Eve's influence. It's a masterful soundtrack, and the sound design in general is excellent as well. The control scheme and UI and UX, though, are a product of their time. That means it was an adjustment going to Parasite Eve from more recent games, but since the adventure is so tightly constructed, you barely feel it as you are playing through. Parasite Eve's presentation got significant praise at the time, and I can see why. The vision for the game that the director Tokaido, composer Shimomura, and many others thought of came together brilliantly. Parasite Eve is one of those games that comes together so well when taken as a whole and as individual parts. The brilliance of the soundtrack is appreciable on its own, and even more so when taken in the game. The unique combat suits the game so well while also having a flair of its own that distinguishes it from both genres it is taking from. Simply put, if you enjoy survival horror and RPGs and you haven't played Parasite Eve, you are depriving yourself. And if you only like one of those, I think it's still a great game to take a look at. It is truly a shame that the copyright issues have likely kept this game from receiving a remaster or remake that would allow more to play it, but if you ever have the chance, you know now that Parasite Eve is a great game, and has my unreserved recommendation. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like to help in the fight against the parasite called the YouTube algorithm, you should give the video a like and comment below your thoughts. I would highly appreciate it. You can also subscribe so you know when my next video comes out. I hope you have a great day, and happy gaming.